All right, so thank you for joining us today for our MicroH Talks Technology webinar. My name is Maria Fiore. I'm the Director of Operations here at MicroH, and I'm joined today by Sergio Lima, Director of Customer Success, and our presenter. Welcome, Sergio.
Hello, Maria. Hello, everyone.
Today's conversation will focus on a topic that continues to impact organizations, and I'm talking about phishing. So before we get started, though, a few housekeeping notes. Sorry, I'm not seeing my screen here. Here we go. All right. Attendees are muted to reduce any background noise. We encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation by using the questions panel of the webinar tool. The webinar is being recorded, and you will be receiving a link to the recording and to the ebook we are making available to everyone a little later today. We encourage you to download the ebook and to re-listen to the recording or share the link of the recording with the colleagues that may benefit from today's information. Lastly, at the end of the webinar, you will receive a short 3-question survey to gather your feedback. Will you please take a moment to share your feedback with us so we can improve future webinars? And one more thing, if you're looking for a copy of the presentation, you can download it. It's in the handouts section of the webinar tool. So look for the handouts and it should be there. So before giving the reins to Sergio, I'm going to take a moment to give a brief overview of who we are for those of you who may not know us. So MicroH is a Canadian technology service provider with 40 locations across Canada. We've been providing IT services and solutions to our clients for over 43 years now. We strongly believe that to truly be a partner, we need to understand your organization. We need to understand your operations, your clients, your people, your goals, your challenges, your opportunities. Understanding your organization helps us recommend and provide the IT services and solutions that are right for you. That's who we are and how we engage with our clients. And with that, Sergio, I hand it over to you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Hope everybody's feeling good today. We'll be talking about our most favorite TMN webinar, the phishing.
Nobody knows TMN. They only know MicroH, Sergio.
They only know MicroH? Okay.
Yeah.
MicroH Network, MicroH.
Yes.
We will go through some statistics that are usually updated on a regular basis whenever we do these forms of webinar, obviously to keep up to date on the trends and what's going on. Speaking of trends, we'll be looking at some of the phishing techniques that are new, not new, kind of. They're sort of creeping up on us, and you'll see what I mean when I start to talk about them. We'll go through our fun game of legit or phish. We'll start with questions, actually, to see if you're awake, and then we'll go through the email templates to see if you're vigilant. How's that? And then finally, we'll just go through some of the tips that you should be looking at in terms of emails that you receive, so that the flags, the alerts, the things, the aha moments that pop into your head when you see certain emails that you should not be clicking on. And then we'll finally answer questions and answers. And I believe that if you have any questions, you can put that in the questions section, I believe it's called.
Yeah, there's a questions section, and please feel free to put them in there, yep. And I'll interrupt Sergio, no problem.
Sure, it's all good. All right, let's go through some statistics. Keep note that these stats are for 2023 and some are 2022. Reason being is that we're not finished our 2024, so we don't have that many reports out there that talk about this year, but it's ongoing. So obviously, we try and put a focus on the Canadian market. So a lot of these stats are Canadian based from companies that are Canadian Center for Cybersecurity, etc. But we also look at other reports from other reputable companies in Canada and in the US. So let's look at the 68% of data breaches that are due to human element. Of course, it's always been that way, right? It's always been high. Many moons ago, it used to be hackers trying to get into your firewalls and your perimeters, but I think we've mastered all of that. And, I think everybody has some form of firewall in place and some perimeter security in place. But the number one way that the breaches occur are mainly because of human error, because of human intervention. So the ability for someone to click on something because of the sense of urgency and then start that whole process of cyber attacker collecting information, then eventually getting into your network. You may be a small, medium business. You may think that you're not a target. Think again, it's still at 43%. So a lot of businesses are small, medium business and like small businesses. Um, and I'm not talking out of report. I'm not talking out of stats here. I'm talking out of experience. So we've gone through situations with small customers that we've had to help them get out of a breach, and it's really small customers. So everybody is open, or everybody's a target. 14% of small businesses consider that their cybersecurity posture effective, which is extremely low. And because I like to throw stats, I'll throw a couple of other stats that are not on this page. These are stats coming from a Canadian firm that does cybersecurity awareness training and phishing exercises. In 2023, 62% of companies say that they have not made any notable improvements after a breach. That is scary because stuff was not in at the beginning. You got hit, and you've probably you probably have a report or an assessment or a list of security solutions you need to put in place, and a lot of them did not put those things in place. And what happens? They get hit again. So that's a scary stat. And again, the average time to detect a data breach in your environment is still at 118 days, which means that you may have a cyber criminal in your network right now that'll camp there for 90 days plus and see what's going on and figure out his best way to attack or collect info or expropriate, extort, etc., or cripple you pretty much.
Check your bank accounts, check your insurance
Yeah,
premiums, check,
check your
different
emails,
things.
check your activity, start collecting some info. Yeah. So there's 70,000 cybersecurity incidences that were reported in 2023, which is an increase of 25% over the year before. So that's still climbing. The 62.5% of organizations that reported some classic ransomware attacks. Good news and bad news. Good news is it's down from the year before. The bad news is it was at 63.3 the year before, so it didn't really go down that much. And globally, everyone's at 72-ish or so, 72.7 versus 72.2 the year before. So it's still high. It's very high actually. We shouldn't have that many organizations reporting that they were breached in some way. And 73% of Canadian organizations expect to be hit by a cyber attack in 2024. Did that go up? It went down. It went down from 85. So that shows that there are some organizations that have put in place some security measures to reduce the risk, get rid of some vulnerabilities, and they feel confident that that they're not going to get some form of cyber attack. So every year there is a cybersecurity awareness training and phishing platform that does a phishing tournament, and they ask of anyone to volunteer their email address and be part of this tournament. And last year, 2023 numbers, these are 2023 numbers, 1.37 people, 1.37 million emails were sent and were phished or attempted phish. 10.4% of these people clicked on some kind of a link. Now, it's a malicious link. Technically, it's a test, obviously, which led to some form of a landing page that 60% of those 10.4% clicked on and provided their passwords and personal information. Now, if that would have been a true spam, then you're looking at quite a bit of people, a big percentage in your environment of users that could potentially be in the same situation were that if that email were to be an actual malicious email and not just a test that they were performing. So again, these numbers did not change from the prior year. The number of emails that were phished went up, but the percentages are still scary, a little scary. So let's look at some not new phishing techniques.
Yeah. They've been around. They're just picking up.
They've been around. Yeah, they just like to make acronyms for this stuff, right? So toad attacks. which stands for telephone-oriented attack delivery. It's an attack method that targets telephone systems to infiltrate your businesses. And obviously then it goes to the stealing of the information, disrupting your operations, etc. Okay, so it's a relatively new form of phishing attack that kind of combines voice and email at the same time. They try and trick the users into disclosing some information. So there is that aspect of social engineering involved. And what they do is they either try and get into your phone systems. If you have traditional phone systems, they will try to get in there and pretend to be an internal user calling you, or they may be calling you on your phone and then pretending to be a technician or somebody who was requesting information. And if you do fall for that, they'll pretty much say, okay, well, I'm going to send you an email following this conversation. I need for you to click on this, and we'll get that settled, whatever the case may be, an invoice that's not paid, an account that's pending, etc. And how they do that is obviously with some techniques called call spoofing, which is similar to email spoofing. They pretend to be someone else's domain. The call spoofing is the same thing. You may, I'm not sure if you had received calls, like I receive calls, our employees here, the ones that have cell phones, their telephone numbers are all either a 514 or 438 extension, but the first three numbers are always 824 for the cell numbers, or most of them anyways. Well, I get calls from an 824 number. So a lot of times I think that it's maybe another employee calling me. They're not in my address book, etc. So you get the answer and it ends up being some person telling you that you have to pay a bill or whatever. But you could fall into that realm. The smishing is has been there for a while. It's pretty much them sending SMS messages, text messages to your phones instead of sending you emails. And obviously, if it's something for a sense of urgency, clicking on the link to get this fixed, etc., it has to be done. There's voice attacks as well, like weaknesses in the voice activated systems and the voice systems. I mean, obviously, I'm going to talk about in the next couple of pages, but they're using AI now to exploit and use voice attacks. And then the telephone denial of service, which is pretty much they're just flooding your device with a flow of SMS messages, either disrupting that or making it part of this. I'm just going to grab some coffee. Now, if you have some form of multi-factor authentication, chances are you're using your telephone to accept that code or say yes, etc. And what they're doing now is actually sending you phishing text, SMS messages, bombarding you with a few. And obviously, like myself, I have many applications and a lot of access where I require 2FA. So obviously, my phone is always there to accept. If they flood you with that, you may not pay attention to certain things and you may click on one of those that is not the good one. And what they do with that is pretty much they collect the code and they collect the key. And then it allows them to use that to access, let's say, your M365 portal or your emails. And when it asks for the 2FA, theoretically, they have now the capacity to click on, yes, it's me. And they get into your environment that way. So there's a little misconception with, people think, oh, 2FAs, it's the best thing, it's 100% secure. And then they hear reports that MFA has been compromised. Well, you have to really look into that and do your research, because a lot of times it's the social engineering aspect that allows the attackers to bypass. And it's not really bypassing, they're just tricking you into giving them the right information that they need so they can log into your account using MFA. So technically the MFA did work. It's just that you kind of gave them the keys to get them in, right? So, and a lot of that has to do with the MFA prompt bombing, which they're just sending you a bunch of emails. And if you're used to clicking a few things, you may not think twice, you may click on that, and that automatically gives them access to certain information, which leads to that social engineering aspect. And I've had an instance where a customer has called us a couple of years ago. Customer called me saying, I've been compromised on my phone has been compromised. It doesn't work anymore. And for whatever reason, the attackers managed to get some info with regards to the telephone provider, called the telephone provider and said, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I changed my phone. I need the phone number to be switched to this phone, this SIM. And they switched over the phone, which theoretically brought over the MFA validation portion. So they tried to log into this customer's MFA Microsoft account. Obviously, it sends a code. It goes to them. They press it. They get into the network, and they did what they had to do. So it was a nightmare to get that back switched over because you have to convince the providers that it's not really you doing that. But again, it's all about the social engineering and just collecting enough information for them to get to where they want to go. And really, it has nothing to do with the level of security that MFA offers. It has everything to do with your weakest link, which are your users or yourself or myself.
Yeah, I think that's what we need to drive home. MFA is still a very good way of authenticating. You just have to be careful that you're not clicking on things or giving your codes away or that kind of stuff, right? I mean, the SIM
Right.
swapping is a little
It's
harder,
it's
but that,
extreme. Yeah.
yeah, but that speaks to, like we put so much stuff on our social stuff, everybody knows your emails, everybody knows this and that, and it could lead to them then knowing, which provider you're using, and then trying to convince them that they, you have to swap your SIM.
Yeah.
So just, yeah.
And then there's ways to protect yourself. I mean, there's proactive measures you can put in place. The first thing is your password hygiene, obviously. Change your passwords on a regular basis if you can. Don't reuse old passwords. Never use the same password across multiple accounts. Change your password. Actually, create your passwords with complexity, so uppercase, lowercase, characters, and numbers. And try and separate your personal versus your corporate email access. Try not to use corporate emails for your personal access. That'll help, obviously. Employee education is also on that list, right? So I guess number one would be the password hygiene, which is super simple, and you really need to do that. And then the employee education and the phishing, the simulations and the training online that you can give to your employees that will, better educate them so they can become a little more vigilant. And then from your IT side, I guess you can look at access control, limit the employee access to the data that they have. You don't, if you have like a flat network where everybody can see all data across the board, it's kind of difficult. It's kind of easy for an attacker just go in and get that information. Whereas if they're limited and in silos, and you've created, I'm going to be technical now, but if you start to create VLANs and splitting up and your backup segregated and all of that stuff, that becomes difficult or a little challenging for cyber attackers and takes longer. And hopefully, not saying they're not going to do it. I'm just saying that it could prolong their
Deter them.
process, which allows for someone to eventually detect that something's going on. And then whenever possible, whenever applications you have that are using, whether they're local apps or whether they're cloud apps, ensure that you're running applications that allow for some form of MFA, multi-factor, two-factor, so that you can secure that portion of it. Because again, if you're running apps that it's a simple password, and then you fall into the trap of if you're using similar passwords, then obviously someone will collect that information and be able to bring it across into your network. There is more and more quishing, as they call it, QR code phishing happening right now. So we're used to an email with a nice link that you can see that's legit, or a sender you can see. You can hover over that link and you can kind of tell, or it may be suspicious. QR codes are not the same. QR codes are very difficult because it's just a bunch of black and white dots everywhere. And now you find them everywhere. So super simple, click this QR code to see the link and get the promotions, click this to log in, create your account, etc. I've seen instances where restaurants now have QR codes for their menus, so they don't have any paper menu. They have a little thing on the right in the middle of the table where you can just scan and take a look at your menu. Well, there's been reports that hackers come into restaurants and put their own QR code sticker right on top of the other one, and that allows for anybody to click on and sends them to a fictitious restaurant page menu. It kind of looks similar, but instead it's downloading software that allows them to collect some of that information that eventually they can use to get into your network. So you need to pay attention to that. Whether it's emails that are coming in with QR codes, or if it's the actual QR codes where you're clicking on, any event that you have and there's a QR code, just make sure it comes from a reputable source, and there's no double sticker on those codes. How to prevent them? Well, employee education, of course, so the phishing training awareness talks about that, so your employees will be more educated for that. Keep your mobile phone operating systems updated as much as possible to the latest, laptops as well, desktops as well, Windows-based, Linux, etc. And then again, back to the password hygiene philosophy, where you need to make sure that you have all the right ways of as much as possible securing your own passwords and your access to all of these environments. Now, that being said, we're starting to see an increase in using generative AI on the cyber attack landscape. So obviously it's going to be difficult to recognize some of these phishing attempts. Why? Because they're using AI to correct the language, the spelling, the grammatical errors. It'll be less obvious to see that. So it'll look legitimate. They can create realistic content using the text, images, videos, obviously with their goal of doing some form of social engineering, right? So it's not just the AI that will be phishing you. They're just leveraging the AI tools to create something that looks a little bit more real than the previous phishing emails. That's the goal is eventually to still get you to click on something or to give them that information. So again, that percentage of 68% of it being, human error, it still stands. It's just, it may climb because of this, right? And it literally takes 5 seconds for someone to create an audio of a photo and that looks realistic to possibly someone you may know, a CEO or a trusted source, etc. So we need to watch out for that. That being said, let's start our game. We'll start with a series of questions and then follow up with some emails, and you have to figure out whether they are legit or phish. Let's start with the questions, and Maria will open up, once we show you the question, Maria will open up the survey. You get to answer for a few seconds, and then we'll come back, show you the results, and then we'll show you the real answer. So let's get going. First question. Always exercise vigilance with incoming emails, even when they are from known trusted entities.
All right. I'm going to launch the poll. Once I get to figure out how it's done, here we go. And then we're just going to wait for everybody to respond. Give it a few more seconds. Votes are coming quick and furious here. All right, I think we've got everybody. So we'll close that and I'll share the results. So 100% of you said that this was true. So let me just hide that, and the answer is true.
True. Yep.
So we like to
start with the
with
easy question.
Yeah, the easy questions.
First,
Yeah.
let's just to make sure that everybody's still there. Let's start question number 2. Using the same password for all your online accounts is a password best practice. True or false?
All right, let's launch the poll. Pretty quick voting. Give it a couple more seconds if anybody wants to enter their vote. All right. And 100% of you said it was false. And the answer is?
The answer is false.
False. So 100% of you are correct.
Good. I gave you the answer, right? Talking about password hygiene and online accounts, and make sure you got the passwords.
You gave a nice hint.
Yeah, and then believe me, it's still happening. I think the stats were at 75% of people use a similar or a variant of similar passwords across many accounts. So that still exists. So that
I think
slowly
I
needs
think
to change.
we have to remember that not everybody is in our industry, so we hear about it all the time, and providing the training, right? That
Yeah.
you know, the awareness training. So it's surprising and not surprising, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
75%.
Question number 3, phishing emails tend to address their victims by name.
True or false?
True or
Let's
false?
launch the poll. This one a little more difficult, I think.
Mm-hmm.
We're almost got everybody's vote. A couple more seconds. All right, let's close that poll and share the results. So we have 63% that said it was true and 37% that said it was false. And the answer is?
The answer is false, actually. Right now, the trend is still on the generic names. Um, Hi, sir. Hello, fellow employee. Hello. Um, the percentage is still high on the generic way of addressing people versus actual hi Sergio or hi Maria. I have seen emails with my name on it or people's name on it, but it still remains in the hello Mr. Client, etc. And stuff like that. That's still the more popular email or form of phishing that's coming through. So it's kind of a great question because it's like there's a percentage amount, right? But still, technically, it's the false because it's still going in as generic way to address people. I don't like the word victim, but I guess we're victims.
Noted, Sergio. I'll change it for next time.
That's okay. Okay, question 4. Which of the following is not a best practice to avoid data leaks? Keep your devices out of sight or locked when in use. Send emails only to recipients concerned by and entitled to the info you're sharing. Use a USB key as your main method of storing documents you are working on. And do not click on attachments that you are not expecting, no matter the source, which
So I'm
is
gonna,
not a best practice.
yeah, which is not the best practice. So let me launch this and get your responses. There's only one correct response, by the way.
Yes.
Okay. Waiting to get as many votes as we can in. All right. A couple more seconds. Okay, close that and share the results. So we have 11% that said keep your devices out of sight and locked when not in use. 7% said send emails only to people concerned or entitled to the information that you're sharing. 63% said use a USB key as your main method of storing documents or your work documents. And then 19% is do not click on attachments you are not expecting. So let me hide this and we will share the result or the response.
The response is the third one. The use of a USB key as your main method of storage still remains a security issue. Obviously, because of its physical aspect, it's a physical key that you have to connect and then may leave lying around, or it could easily be stolen or replaced, etc. So this is a form of still considered a security risk by a lot of people. The rest are pretty straightforward. I mean, your devices like your phones and stuff, if you don't leave them hanging around, and if they are, make sure they're locked so nobody has access. Try not to send info to a bunch of people. I always say you can control the amount of info that comes out of your environment, but if you give it to 20 different people, if it's, let's say, corporate info, your customer info, you can't control those 20 other people, what they do with their information, or if they're compromised, and how that information will get used by cyber attackers in the future to actually go after them. And then don't click on any attachments that you're not expecting. I mean, if you're not expecting emails at 2 in the morning, even though you think it's coming from someone you know, that's the likelihood of somebody being awake at 2 in the morning for that particular case, you'd have to look at some of those. We have we have our items at the end of this webinar. We have our checklist that you can go through that kind of helps you with that and that'll keep your eyes open in case you see something like this. Question number 5, what are the best practices for protecting payment cards? Choose all that apply. So there's multiple answers here. Best practices for protecting. So never repeat card info out loud. Do not write card info on a piece of paper. Shred any documents containing card info. Store client financial files in a locked cabinet.
All right, let's launch the poll. Give everybody a chance to vote. Getting close to everybody voting, but keep it a couple more seconds here. All right, I'm going to close that and share the results. So we have 93% who said never repeat card info out loud, 90% who said don't write it on a piece of paper, 93% again shred any documents containing card info, and 76% store client financial files in a locked cabinet. So I will hide this. And this, we talk about, payment cards or credit cards or whatever, but that could be any sensitive or confidential or personal information that
Yeah.
shouldn't be at large. Let's put it.
Yeah. The answer is all of them, actually, and that would explain that percentage, the high percentage, but not 100%, because people thinking it's maybe a trick question, that maybe one of them is not best practice, but they're pretty much all best practice, obviously.
Yep.
All right, let's do some email templates here. Sample emails.
Do you want to expand that a little bit?
I can make that bigger, yeah. For a minute there, I thought it was one of my emails. It looks like an email. Okay. Actually, I'll leave it like this just for a couple seconds so that everybody look at the overall look and feel of this, and then I'll start to make it bigger so that if it's too small for people. Is that better?
I think so. If anybody wants a little bit bigger, just put it in the question panel or chat and let me know, or let us know. All right, do you think we've given enough time?
Sure.
Give it a couple more seconds. All right, I'm gonna launch the poll and you're gonna let us know, is this a phish or a legitimate email? Definitely a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we've almost got everybody's vote. A couple more seconds. All right, I think we've got everybody. Close that. I'm going to share the results. So we've got 64% who thought it's a phish and 36% who think it is legitimate. And the answer is?
I like this one. This is a tough one.
Yeah.
So I think this came to you, right? So you might want to explain your thought process behind all of this.
Yeah, well, first of all, I question, right? Whenever you start getting SharePoint or,
Yeah.
emails from like systems, you question that. It did come to me. They came directly to, it didn't come to some random, person like careers or something like that. And then I looked at, it's telling me that my recording or my file is going to be deleted. And I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, we did this. And I went to check on my calendar and it's like, yeah, we had a presentation at that time. And then it says, if you want to go get it back, you can go to recycle bin. I did not click on this. I went to my recycle bin and sure enough, that recording was there. So, I questioned the whole thing before I just clicked on, any email or did anything that it asked me to, right? It's just, and this is informational too. It's like, we're deleting this. If you need it, you can go get it here. Up to you what you do. There's no stress here. So,
Yeah.
but really, that's what I did. Is like, okay, I checked the calendar. Yep, all good. I get to the recycle bin. Yeah, there's that. Do I want to keep it? Yes or no, right? That was my thought process.
There's like evidence of suspicious phishing content, like this
Yes.
expired file has been deleted.
Yep.
It's not addressed to you. What else we got? Go to the recycle bin to get it back. It's like these are
Yeah.
all clues that
Questions.
come from a typical phishing template. That's
And that's
fraudulent,
why they're so
obviously.
good, right? And that's why
Yeah, and
people do fall for them, right?
yeah, and
So,
like you said, you just went around that, not going through that email just to double check to make sure that it's actually legit.
and I think that's an important part of this training, right? Is don't click on links or buttons or things like that. If you have a different way of checking something, do it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Unfortunately, it does add time and frustration, but we don't have a choice.
Well, then imagine what it would add if something happens, right?
That's right.
So, so
Hours and days and weeks of not working in some cases.
yeah.
Email number 2.
Give everybody a few minutes to look through it again, look at all the different pieces of it, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. All right, I think that have we given enough time?
Sure.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna share the poll and you guys tell us whether it's a Phish or legit. We're almost, people are answering quick. This is good. Yep, I think we've got everybody's vote. So we will shut that down and share the results. And so we have 94% who say it's a Phish and 6% who say it is legit. So is it a Phish or legit, Sergio?
It is a Phish.
It is a
And
Phish.
leveraging the other email we just saw, it now becomes really hard to see which one's good or which one's not, because same format, not addressed to anybody in particular. But there's some indications that suspicious, like Office for You, 365.com. I mean, there's a sense of
Urgency.
urgency where your password expires in 4 days, yet you have options to keep the same password or skip for 6 months. Like, is it urgent or not urgent?
Yeah,
Um,
and,
you
and
know,
who will send you a note to say, yeah, you can keep your password
yeah,
when,
yeah.
best practice is to change it every once in a while, right? Like, so didn't
Yeah,
make a lot of sense. And then
there's a few
last piece
indications.
too, it's kind of like it's confusing and yet threatening at the same time. So
Yeah,
it's, so 94% of you, good job.
yeah. All right, next one is, I will make this bigger.
Yeah, that one. That's
How's that?
trying to fit it all on one
I
slide.
don't have to show that, but I can show this. There you go. Okay.
Can you make it just a bit bigger? People can
Yep.
see where it's from and who it's going to. And then if you want to scroll down so they can see the rest of it after. This is a good one for winter.
Yep.
All right.
Nice kid.
So yeah, yeah, exactly. I will launch the poll and see what you guys think about this. Give it a couple more seconds so I can get everybody's vote in. All right. 2 more seconds. I think we got everybody. All right. We'll close and share. So in this case, we have 96% of people who think it's a fish and 4% who think it's legit. Sounds very similar to the last one. Oh, it is a fish.
Yes, it is a fish.
It is a fish.
Um,
So I
yeah,
got this.
go ahead. Yeah.
So, you know, I checked the CAA thing and it seems a little odd, doesn't look right. And then it came to my mailbox, but I don't know who this person is at the top here, who whatever that name is. I've never
Yeah.
seen that. So that was kind of weird. You know, they're asking us to do something, you know, your confirmation is needed. And you've been chosen. How many times have you
Yeah.
been chosen to win something, right? And so it, you know, there were so many things about it that were red flags to me anyway. And then, you know, start the survey and here's your code, which were pretty good actually, because often when you do surveys, they give you a code to make sure that it's you and stuff like that. But there was just a lot of things in this that didn't make sense to me. And the giveaway, the dead giveaway was they're sending it to whoever that is that I don't know who it is. So my name isn't even there.
Hmm.
So so it was kind of odd. And the other thing that gave it away is it came to my, so I'm a member of CA, but it came to my business email, and I don't use my business email for my CA account. So
There you go.
lots of
Yeah.
things there.
Yeah. So that helps.
So again, all those things that you would, you know, question yourself, you know, does that domain look right? Does the, you know, who is this person that's at to addressed to, like, who is
Yeah.
that? You
Why
know,
is it coming to the microage domain instead of coming to your personal, et
yeah,
cetera? Yeah. Yeah.
exactly,
And
exactly.
why do they have stickers in their emergency kit?
I didn't even think about it. Oh,
I don't
really?
know. I don't know. Oh,
There
I'm
you go. I didn't
sorry.
even notice that. So,
Yeah. Oh, well. Okay.
all right,
All right,
next.
let's move on. Next one.
This one's a short one, so
Oh,
should
it's to
be.
me. Okay.
It is to you.
Yeah.
All right, let's launch it. Is it a fish or is it legit? We've got almost everybody's vote in. Huh? I think we've got it. All right, so let's close the poll. Let's share the results. So we've got 82% that think it's a fish and 18% that think it is legit. And so, fish or legit, Sergio?
It is a fish. Actual email that came to me through all our systems, all of our security systems that did go through. The biggest alert for me would be, I guess, the coming from Phil with this weird Gmail account.
Phil, for anybody who was
Yeah,
wondering, is our, you know, our
he's our
president.
president. Yeah, he's our president. So, coming from Phil, but it's coming from this strange Gmail account, which never happens from him. So that's the biggest tell. Then the other thing I noticed was I guess the body of the message that, see the question about the addressing to the person or just generic addressing. It comes into play because we've had a bit of both, right? Examples of legit without the names, and then Phish without the names, and now we have a Phish with the name, so it's actually addressed to me, but it says, "Are you
But does
free at the
does
moment?"
Phil
It's like,
ever say hello, Sergio? I don't know, but he always says hi.
Mm, that's right. So obviously, it's the way, the communication you have with the individual that is a factor that you need to think about, right? So he doesn't speak that way to me. He never asks me, "Are you free at the moment?" via email. He calls me, or he chats in Teams. So right away I knew that wasn't. But again, that's me because of all the training, et cetera. I mean, IT, et cetera. We actually have employees, and I've seen customers, employees that have replied to emails like that are very similar, thinking that it's their boss, and it's not. And
And
that's
and
how
you
it
know
starts.
what? The other thing too is if you receive this on your mobile phone, right? Like on a computer or on, your tablet, you see the whole email address, you kind of
Yeah,
see a lot of
yeah,
things but on your mobile, all you see is Phil Palmieri.
yeah.
He's your president,
That's right.
right?
Yeah,
He's going to ask you, do you have a moment? Do you even notice that he says hello, which he never
right.
does, right? So all these things may be kind of, something that you don't notice. So it's not
Yeah,
the it's not because people are not or just clicking on things just for the sake of clicking. It's just you
yeah,
have busy days. You're getting stuff all over the place, and sometimes you just have to take a minute or a
yeah,
second to say, is this normal? Like, let me check this email address. It doesn't make sense to me, right?
yeah.
Why would he be sending this to me on his iPad in the middle of the
Well,
day?
here's the thing. Phil has an iPad, or at least he
He
used to
does
have
have
one,
an
and
iPad.
he would send emails, and it would say sent from my iPad. Now it says
I
sent from my iPhone because he has an iPhone. But again, it's like I didn't even look at that. See, like how did they get that information, right? It could be a shot in the dark, and they just guess. It
Yeah.
could very well be some form of information that they've collected, and they're
Yep.
trying to go through it, right?
Yep. I guess we're moving to the next
Okay,
one.
next one, two-factor authentication.
See, everybody can see that, hopefully. I mean,
Let me make that bigger.
it's just the color of the. All right, I think it's pretty short email, pretty quick. So let's launch the poll. Let's see what you guys think. Yeah, we're almost there. Let's give it a couple more seconds for everybody to get in their vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's close that down and share the results. So we have 75%. Oh yeah, 75% Phish, 25% legit. And Phish are legit.
It is a Phish for a few reasons. Very generic domain, sending that email dash sending dash system.
Yeah,
Dear
kind of random.
employee, your employer, very generic. You need to click this right now, register here. It's important, 2FA. Thank you for your cooperation. There's like nothing else written that's there, I guess, or
There's no signature. There's
yeah,
no.
yeah. And the one thing I can stress is most of the time, I hope anyways, when your company implements some form of security measure like this, let's say two-factor authentication, what you should do in all cases is send a communication beforehand saying that you will be doing this security enhancement. It will include this. Expect to receive an email that looks something like this. Um, it'll help your users, understand and know which one they should be clicking and which ones they shouldn't be clicking on, because it could very well be a day where they receive the good one and the bad one at the same time, and you don't want them clicking on the bad one.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. You said all of it. Sergio, I don't know what happened to your camera, but
Yeah, it
we
looks
don't see.
frozen. Can you still hear me?
Well, we can hear you. Yeah. So we just don't see your lovely face.
Okay.
Um, all right. what's next?
Let me see if I can turn that off and then turn that back on. And I'll move to the next page. No? You can still hear me though?
I can still hear you. We can't see you. That's unfortunate, but maybe you just want to make this a little bit bigger for people, just
Sure.
to uh, people see.
Is that
No,
good or you want bigger?
no, it does. It's not moving. So you're. Oh, there it is. Okay, that's fine. I think it's fine.
A little slow. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, my camera's
Little.
off. I can't see myself. You can't see me. Sorry. But
Oh,
we're almost done. And so again, the main word is vigilance at the bottom. Go through some of the checklist items, however you want to call this. Question it. Do you recognize the person that's sending it to you? Is it a known person? Do you recognize the domain? Does it seem okay? Is it spelled correctly? Phone numbers look good. Do they ever call you or text you in this manner? Um, do they normally communicate with you through these channels? Example, Phil Palmieri sending me an email saying, "Are you free?" That he never does that to me, so I knew right away that wasn't legit. Um, do they normally ask you for whatever they're asking for? Who else is copied in this email? Do you recognize them? Is it blank copied? Is it should they be copied? Is it normal? Do they refer to you by name or dear client, dear colleague, etc., dear employee, as we saw? Um, does it feel off in terms of communication that email, if it's coming from someone you typically deal with and it just doesn't sound right, question it, right? Call the person and don't reply to the email that you
yeah.
receive, because your
Don't.
chances are you're sending it back to the hacker. He's just going to open up that communication and you're going to think it's really them. Start a new email and then send them, hey, you just sent me an email. Is that you, or chat or something? But that's pretty
Or
much the
call.
only way, yeah, or call. It's pretty much the only way we have of validating whether or not that was a legit email that comes through, unfortunately. Um, the sounding of it, the odd attachments, links and QR codes, you got to be wary of those. Do they normally send this to you? Let's say you're receiving an invoice for a vendor or a partner and you usually don't get these invoices. Like, why are you receiving these invoices right now? You should question that. And obviously, if I do receive some spam with invoices that are not supposed to go to me, and the first thing I do is we speak to our accounting department. Oh, I'm back.
Yeah, you
I
are
speak
back.
to our accounting department, and it's like, did something change? Or and obviously they confirm that it's not a valid email. So these are things you have to ask yourself. And obviously their goal is to provide some form of sensitive or personal information, confidential information, something that could lead them into your network. If you get emails asking for codes and stuff, did you access an application or a site that requests that? If you're just getting that randomly, something's up. And they're possibly making changes to your payment processes or etc. So just call when you get types of emails like that, or texts, because obviously you get the smishing part of it as well when you get texts for your account is past due, or I don't know, you have to pay a bill or something, click here, or the Canadian government has $500 for you type of phishing.
Or even a phone call, like
Yeah,
sometimes oh, this is your bank. Your bank is not going to call you to ask you personal information. They just won't.
yeah,
So so just hang up. Like that's that kind of stuff. Yeah. So those are just some of the, I mean,
good.
there's obviously a lot
Yeah,
of different questioning, but those are some of the things that you need to look at. Especially, I mean, if you're in accounting and somebody sends you something and says, oh, we just changed our payment processes, don't take their word for it. Make sure, confirm, by call or by like Sergio said, like open another email to that person to see. And that could be that they were spoofed, right? So maybe, so be careful with that as well. So just double
yeah.
check that kind of stuff,
We've
right?
had several customers fall for that as well. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm your partner and we've changed our method of payment, or the accounts have changed. Please use this moving forward. And the accounting department made the changes and sent money over. Yeah,
Well, because as humans we trust, right? Like, I mean,
yeah,
but unfortunately we can't continue to do that. So,
yeah. Okay.
all right. Well, if you have any comments or questions, please put them in the questions panel. But we are at the end of our webinar, and so we do have, like I mentioned, an ebook that you can download where we talk about some of the fishing techniques and get a little bit deeper on that. I did put the link in the chat if you want to download it. Otherwise, like I mentioned earlier, we will be sending um, uh, an email later on with the recording and the link to the uh, the ebook. So you can get it at that point as well. So if there are no questions or comments, then again, thank you very much for joining us today. Please download the ebook and reach out to your local microage with any questions. Our next webinar will be on November 14th, so watch your inbox and our social channels for the invites. And with that, Sergio, thank you very much as usual.
Thank you, everyone.
And thanks to all of you for spending some time with us today, and we wish you a great rest of day.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good Thanksgiving to you.
Yeah.
That was Goderich to Toyota, so thank you.